This is my deep dive on the canon details about Remus Lupin with details about Teddy at the end.
So Remus Lupin was born in March of 1960, and he was the son of a wizard, Lyle Lupin, and a muggle, Hope Howell. And Pottermore states that Lyle Lupin was world-renowned for his knowledge on non-human spiritus apparitions. And he met his wife Hope in a Welsh forest while hunting down a boggart that was attacking her, and she unknowingly just thought it was like some really big scary man, not knowing it was a boggart because she's a muggle, and he saved her. They get married, they have Lupin, life goes on, and Voldemort rises to power for the first time. Because of his knowledge, Lyle was asked to join the Ministry's Department of Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures. So one day they were having a hearing where Fenrir Greyback was brought in to be accused about the death of 2 muggle children. Greyback basically posed as a muggle. He was like, I'm just a very poor, lowly muggle. This is so amazing. All these wizards, this is so cool. And he had very tattered clothing. He didn't have a wand because he was a werewolf. So the whole committee believed him. Lyle was recognizing just the physical attributes and the signs of the werewolf that Greyback was, and he tried to convince the committee to hold him for 24 hours until the next full moon. During his argument, however, Lyle said some pretty awful and derogatory things about werewolves. The committee sent Lyle out, was like, and then just told Greyback, we're so sorry, that was so rude, we're so sorry, but by all means, sir, leave. So the ministry was supposed to alter his memory because they thought he was a muggle, so they were going to alter his memory so he didn't remember the ministry or anything that he learned. But before they could do that, there were 2 werewolf associates standing outside the entrance, and those 2 guys helped Greyback attack the ministry people, and they all escaped. Greyback told his associates about what Lyle said, and they immediately went to look for him. Greyback found their home and broke in and attempted to kill a 5-year-old Remus. Lyle heard the screams, broke into the room, and stopped Greyback and saved his son's life, but 5-year-old Lupin was already a werewolf at that point. They tried to find a cure, and once rumors started in their village, they had to move, and they continuously spent their life moving once rumors started to keep their family safe. Remus grew up with no friends. He grew up hiding himself. It was really sad. Every month when he would transform, his parents would put him in a locked room and put silencing spells around the room so no one would hear his screaming. But that only worked until he was 10 years old, because at that point he was strong enough to break down the door and break windows. Assuming that Remus was never going to be able to attend school, Lyle did everything he could to educate his son from home. But for Remus's 11th birthday, Albus Dumbledore showed up to their house. So Dumbledore knew about Remus because Greyback went on to brag about what he did to them. But Dumbledore had come up with a whole plan on giving Remus a very safe place to transform every month and convince the family that he could keep Remus safe. After arriving to Hogwarts for his first year, Remus was sorted into Gryffindor along with Sirius and James and Peter. So the building in Hogsmeade that Dumbledore had set aside for Remus was actually what's now known as the Shrieking Shack. Remus was meant to go underground where, there were concealment charms, there were all kinds of things, but he was meant to go underground where he was going to be able to keep himself safe. And so all of the people that lived in Hogsmeade would hear this screaming because Remus didn't have anybody else to attack, so he attacked himself, and the people would hear the screaming and think it was just violent ghosts. Dumbledore encouraged these rumors, helped spread them, do all of the things, and he, allowed the place to be then dubbed the name Shrieking Shack. Remus Lupin didn't have friends until he was 11 years old, and that just breaks my heart. So we left off with Remus finally meeting Sirius, James, and Peter for the first time, and they all get sorted into Gryffindor. Remus was so desperate to belong and be accepted that he allowed behavior from his friends that he thought was wrong, but never stood up and said anything about it. I believe it's in Order of the Phoenix where Sirius admits to Harry that Remus never participated in their joined group bullying of Severus. However, Remus does deeply regret that he never stood up or said anything. And the only reason they became friends with Peter was because Lupin felt bad for him because he was the underdog. He was just this small kid that was shunned to the side, and he just doesn't want anybody to feel left out like he did. So anyway, the 4 become inseparable and they spend all their time together, but they're incredibly concerned on why Remus just keeps disappearing every month. The lies just kept getting thinner, and eventually in their second year, Sirius and James guessed it correctly that he was a werewolf. Remus was so afraid of his friends finding out because he didn't want to lose them. He finally had friends and he was so afraid that they were going to abandon him. Also just want to throw in there that Remus did exceptionally well in his classes and that he was made prefect in his 5th year. So obviously James, Sirius, and Peter did not abandon Lupin, but by their 5th year, the 3 of them had learned how to transform and become animagi, so that way they could spend more time with Remus. So once a month when Remus transformed, they would transform with him and they would all go down into the Shrieking Shack and hang out. This provided a lot of comfort for Remus and it really soothed him, so he felt like he had a little bit more control in his werewolf form. So once they all got comfortable, the four of them would roam the grounds at night in their animal forms. But this is what gave them the knowledge of school grounds, which allowed them to write the Marauders map. And I just love thinking about the three of them sneaking out under James's invisibility cloak to meet Remus under the Whomping Willow. Like they would, Sirius, James, and Peter would then go down, like past the Whomping Willow, go down those steps into that cavern and find Remus there and spend their nights with him. However, in their 5th year, Sirius decided to play a really mean prank on Snape. Basically told him about the Whomping Willow and the steps under it, hoping that Snape would try and go under there in hopes he got seriously hurt. Despite not liking Snape, James actually stepped in and saved Snape's life in this moment from the Whomping Willow and from Lupin, who was underneath in the cavern at the time. However, before James got to him, Snape did lay eyes on Lupin and discovered his secret. So from what I believe, Snape kept his mouth shut about Remus, and Remus was able to finish his last 2 school years because this happened in their 5th year. But anyway, the Marauders graduated Hogwarts in 1978 and they immediately went to join the Order of the Phoenix because Voldemort has risen to power at this point, like full-fledged power. So during the war, everybody was very wary and scared of everything. So after the prophecy is told and Dumbledore sends the Potters into hiding, Sirius basically got it in his head that he thought Remus was a spy. And when it came time to choose secret keepers, Dumbledore was picked for the Longbottoms, and the Potters wanted to choose Sirius, but Sirius felt it was too obvious and urged them to choose Peter, who was only thought of as a dim-witted little know-nothing. Remus was actually up north on another mission when he got word that he lost all 3 of his best friends in one night. After that, Remus spent quite a few years traveling very frequently so nobody caught on to his patterns and taking low jobs that really just didn't match his skill. Access to the Wolfsbane potion is the only reason that Remus Lupin accepted the job for Defense Against the Dark Arts at Hogwarts. After spending quite a number of years alone and miserable, Dumbledore hunted Remus down and offered him this job, knowing he'd be perfect. Remus loved being a professor and he was really good at it too. He obviously took a liking to Harry, missing his friend James, but he also took a very big interest in Neville Longbottom, always picking the underdog. But like I said, Snape spent the entire year supplying Remus with all of the Wolfsbane that he could need so that way he could stay in control of his mind when he would transform. Also, fun fact that even after Snape ratted Remus out to the entire school and Remus had to leave the school because of him, Snape continued to make Wolfsbane potions and send them to him. Throughout the year, though, Draco and several of the other Slytherins would make fun of Remus for his tattered clothing and his unwealthy appearance. Also, side note, while the students had no idea he was a werewolf, the entire staff did know. Remus, however, quickly became a favorite teacher for many students that year. But if you're like me and you watch the movie and you watch Remus's boggart turn into a moon and you're like, how did nobody put that together? Like, that's just so clearly a moon. How, like, why did nobody else put that together? Like, yeah, Hermione's smart, but it's really not that hard. All the students thought it was a crystal ball and they were just confused. So Hermione kept her mouth shut because she has experienced prejudice herself and didn't want to perpetuate that cycle, but also because she really enjoyed Lupin as a professor and thought he was a good person and really truly thought that werewolves deserved better than their image. I also cannot express the level of anger that I experienced at such a young age watching Prisoner of Azkaban for the first time and seeing that they completely left out Remus's final exam for the class. Like, this was genius. He set up this entire obstacle course containing a bunch of magical creatures that he taught them about that year. Like, it was amazing. So first the students had to cross a paddling pool that had a Grindylow in it. Then they had to cross a series of potholes with a bunch of red caps in them. Then they had to go across this marsh while a hinky punk completely misleads them. And then at the end they have to battle a boggart. So Remus left the school, Voldemort continued to rise to power again, and once again Remus joined the Order of the Phoenix. And this is where he first met Nymphadora Tonks. So Remus was absolutely mesmerized by her, quickly developed feelings, but hid everything out of honest fear and disgust of his own condition. They would occasionally go on missions together for the Order, and Remus would just hope for time for them together, and he was just happy to leave it at that. So after about a year of just being friends, the two of them are on a mission camping outside a Death Eater's house. And while they're laying there, Tonks basically makes a comment about somebody in the order being handsome, especially after leaving Azkaban. And Remus connects this to she means Sirius. And he's, without thinking, makes a comment like, oh yeah, he always gets the girls. At this point, Tonks gets really frustrated, and she was like, if you just paid attention and stopped feeling sorry for yourself, you would know who I actually care about. And Remus just like pretended that he didn't know what she meant and really just like ghosted her and did everything he could to just go on the most dangerous missions, be super self-destructive, think he's unworthy, just better off dead, all the things. So then it was around this time that Sirius unfortunately passed away and Remus lost the last of his friends. After that happened, Remus went out to live with fellow werewolves to try and convince them to join the Order side, but risked seeing Fenrir Greyback out in the wild. Because of the role that Dumbledore played in Lupin's life, thinking about Dumbledore's death from Lupin's perspective honestly wrecks me more than anybody else's perspective. To Lupin, Dumbledore was the symbol of kindness, compassion, understanding, and openness, which was why Lupin was able to trust Snape blindly simply because Dumbledore did, and Remus would have believed anything Dumbledore said. So it was at the Battle of the Astronomy Tower that Remus finally saw Tonks for probably the first time in a year, and he finally came face to face with Fenrir Greyback again. It was after the battle and after Dumbledore's death and after seeing Fleur declare her love for Bill even after he is disfigured by Greyback during this battle, Tonks then takes this as license to be like, see, Fleur still loves him, I can love you, it's possible. So Tonks uses this opportunity to make this very public declaration of her love for Remus, in which he reciprocates finally. They got married very quietly up in the north of Scotland because Remus was very concerned about what he was asking Tonks to do, like becoming the wife of a werewolf. He really thought he was just dooming her life. Tonks got pregnant very quickly after marriage and Remus lost it. So while the trio are hunting Horcruxes and they're at 12 Grimmauld Place, Remus actually runs away from his pregnant wife and meets Harry and the other two at Grimmauld Place and is like, can I join your hunt? Can I come with you? And Harry reams him out. He was like, you are selfish. You're an idiot. Go back to your pregnant wife. What are you doing? You're not joining us. And the two gets into like a huge argument and Remus like pushes Harry against the wall with a spell, this whole thing. And then Remus goes off to some pub to drink for a while. Comes to his senses, goes back to Tonks, apologizes for everything, and then asks Harry to be the godfather, and the two patch things up then. Their child was born, and they named him Edward Tonks, but nicknamed him Teddy. This was after Nymphadora's father. He was born with no signs of lycanthropy, but he could shift his appearances like his mother. So, as we know, Tonks was not supposed to go to the final battle for Hogwarts, but she did. She took Teddy to Andromeda, and then she immediately went to Hogwarts to join her husband in a fight because she felt wrong abandoning him. Remus was super out of practice with his dueling skills, so when he came across Dolohov, that wasn't a fair fight. And Tonks had a target on her back. This entire time, Bellatrix has been coming after her with a blood vengeance. So Harry is the godfather of Teddy, but Andromeda was the caregiver after both of his parents passing. Because of his services to the school, Remus was the first werewolf to be awarded the Order of Merlin First Class. And this was incredibly huge and influential for changing the stereotypes for werewolves across the wizarding world. The parallels between Harry Potter and Teddy Lupin were heartbreaking for every Harry Potter fan that read the books. The lack of representation of Teddy Lupin in the movies left all of the movie fans in the dark about who this character was. Like, an actor was even cast for him to be shown in the epilogue at the end of the movie, and they cut it. But that's enough of my soapbox. Edward Teddy Lupin was born in April of 1998, and his parents were Remus Lupin and Nymphadora Tonks. To Lupin's hopes and dreams, Teddy was not born with lycanthropy, but Teddy did show his mother's traits of metamorphosis in the very first day he was born, changing his hair color by the hour. So Teddy was born in May, and his parents died in April, so poor baby was only a month old. Before their passing, they made Harry Potter his godfather, and Andromeda became the caregiver for Teddy's early life. Andromeda is Andromeda Black, Narcissa and Bellatrix's sister, Tonks' mother. So Teddy is only mentioned in the epilogue of Deathly Hallows, and it's James coming running around the corner to tell his parents that he saw Teddy kissing their cousin. So Victoria Weasley was the daughter of Bill and Fleur Weasley. So Victoria was 2 to 3 years younger than Teddy. It's not known when exactly she was born. It says either 2000 or 2001. Also, Harry and Ginny's daughter Lily was consistently making comments that she hopes that Teddy and Victoria got married because then Teddy would actually officially be a part of their family, and it's just so precious. But anyway, what we also know from the epilogue is that Teddy was raised by Andromeda, but he spent about 4 nights a week having dinner at the Potters, and Harry joked that they should just ask Teddy to move in, and James was like, yeah, no, he can have my room. I'll go room with Al. However, Teddy was a little bit older than Harry's children. His 7th year at Hogwarts, graduating in 2016, was James's first year. Teddy went off to Hogwarts in 2009 and he was sorted into Hufflepuff. Not a lot is known about Teddy's life at Hogwarts in the years that he was there, but in his 5th year in 2014, he went to the Quidditch World Cup with the Weasleys and the Potters, and Rita Skeeter wrote us a wonderful little article. So Rita's article title was Dumbledore's Army Reunites at Quidditch World Cup Final, and it went on about, everybody from DA. But she made this whole lovely little section about Teddy and Victoria. I was just going to give you a summary, but honestly, I'm just going to read you word for word the article off of my computer. Okay, class. No doubt, Potter will be distressed to know that his 16-year-old godson, Teddy Lupin, a lanky half-werewolf with bright blue hair, has been behaving in a way unbefitting of wizard royalty since arriving on the VIP campsite. It might be asking too much that the always busy Potter keeps a tight rein on this wild boy who was entrusted in his care by his dying parents. But one shudders to think what might become of Master Lupin without urgent intervention. Okay. Meanwhile, Mr. and Mrs. Bill Weasley might like to know that their beautiful blonde daughter, Victoria, seems to be attracted to any dark corner where Master Lupin happens to be lurking. Why are we calling him Master Lupin? The good news is both of them seem to have invented a method of breathing through their ears. I can think of no other reason how they have survived such prolonged periods of what in my day was called snogging. I love Rita. Oh, also, Teddy was made head boy in his 7th year. And because he was older than Victoria, the whole scene where James sees him kissing her at the train station, that was the first year Teddy had graduated. So that was 2017, the year after Teddy graduated. Victoria is going back to school. James has already gone to his first year. Albus is now going to school. So that's the whole setting scene, is Teddy has already graduated when they are sending their children off to Hogwarts in the epilogue.
Thanks for watching. Mwah!